The Dead Dads Club. How did it get started? Well, it started when our dads died, but the way the club itself began was sort of an informal meeting. A group of us were sitting up at Sadlak's one day, one afternoon, drinking beer, and probably it was after the 5th or 6th beer or so that somehow the subject of our dads came up. And the people there were myself and my brother Dave and Jim Shell and two of the Eichenbergers, I'm not sure which, and Debbie Baggett. I think it was Peter and Kurt. And we were sitting around the table, and somehow it came up that someone said something about their dad, his being dead or his funeral or something, and then someone else said, well, my dad's dead. Then someone else said, well, my dad's dead, and then said, well, his dad's dead. And it turned out that all of us sitting around the table had dead dads, and that naturally led into a conversation about our dads. So we talked about that and drank more beer and got more into it and more or less informally established a Dead Dads Club that very day. And it just became sort of a joke later on at parties where this group would see each other and say, hey, the Dead Dads Club, and then someone would hear us talking and say, hey, my dad's dead too. And next thing we knew, we had 20 people in a Dead Dads Club. And so it went on like that for a couple years. And last year, I was with Kurt, I think, and we were talking about Dead Dads Club. Father's Day was coming up, and we thought, hey, this year we ought to really do it and have a real Dead Dads Club and officially incorporate, have a party, have a book, you sign your name with your dad's name in it, and just do it upright. So last year, 1990, was the first Dead Dads Club meeting, and invites were sent out, and the invitees were supposed to bring their dad's favorite drink and favorite junk food, because it turned out that a lot of our dads enjoyed to imbibe quite frequently, and so we thought it'd be fun in their memory to drink their drink and get drunk on what they used to get drunk on. So we sent out maybe 20 invitations and had that many and more show up and had just a great time.
Twisted, but for one thing, you got twist. Kill yourself off. I got it. Jimmy, how's your dad? He's dead. Come on. Darkness. How's your dad?
Oh, he's dead. Very dead. He's a
How
nice
dead
guy.
is he?
Oh, he's fine though. Yes, he's very dead, very fine.
You know, last
How
time
long
I saw
is
my
that?
dad, he was dead.
1972, actually.
1972.
Yep, that's
Hey, come on, Billy. This is a dad moment. This is a fucking dad moment, man.
That's the thing about that's the bad part about having a video.
Look, man. You go.
The one who at least have the
Hey man, I think my dad and Jesus. And one reason I think Jesus is like my dad is because I think of myself like Jesus. It's like if you know God, you know that you are Jesus and you are dead, right?
Eventually, my pal passed.
There he is, Daddy Schultz. In a faded black and white photograph.
Fireman.
But he's dead now.
He got skinny again.
Before and after.
Educated. He just made it today.
Oh, Lord.
Wake up.
Let me have a sip. I'm gonna
Peter, it was like this.
There's a dead one.
CB 750 1970 model motorcycle. Gave up.
The triumph of the Japanese.
Gave up. 1969 Ambassador 750 or 850. I'm sorry. R.B. Johnson's showroom model. Beautiful bike. Because the 750 power from the Japanese was on the market. And he was on 1010 highway at this side of Apex. And Farm Boy ran a stop sign and T-boned him. And he hit a newly new for that time, when they first started underground telephone wires, box about the size of a refrigerator, head on. And that pretty much put him out of commission. Survived until he got to the little Apex Hospital, which is a very small hospital in Apex, the country hospital. And he died there, and took his body back to New York and buried him with full IBM funeral, you know.
Yeah, I think my father liked to drive. Or he would drive whenever possible. I always drove a Ford. His father-in-law had a Ford dealership or something, so I guess he always felt he was getting a good deal. But unfortunately, Fords in the 70s were particularly ugly cars. And I think then he graduated at some point and went to an LTD. I don't remember which was more. It seemed like the LTD was more important, and that too was white, or yellow, or something really awful. The Futura was a yellow, so I don't know why you picked these terrible cars. I really don't think he liked to drive. I don't know. Maybe that's it. He didn't like to drive at all, and so we got these ugly cars, and so it would always be sort of a heartbreaking experience to have to drive. I think it would be for me.
Here comes your father.
Wait till your father gets home.
Yeah, that's about it.
Dad. Dad.
I cry as from a dark cave. My mind is hoarse from voiceless shout. I can hear no answer but the squeak of a bat and the sound of water running over stones. And yet do I hear people laughing? The question isn't really who can hear, but who would listen if they did.
It was running. You were in there.
Let's hear another.
That's my dad.
He said, I hate to tell you, Andy. I said, Phillips, I'm going to break this fucking gun. He said, go ahead and break it. We've got 1 million more. It's not a gun. It's a weapon. I said, fuck you, Phillips. And I broke the gun. I hammered against the marl pile with the stock rope. And then I took the barrel of the axe and I hammered it. And it broke down. In the end, I was tried. Billy and I were tried. We were exonerated. We paid $1 each for the shells. We're each given a carton of smokes and shipped out. I am a Catholic and American in that order because I believe that that there is more.
That you will go to heaven.
That you will go to heaven. Two, that this country is more than dead gooks and young gunners. I'm not sure I'm right on either count, but I cling to them both because without them, the universe is senseless. Like Fred Eichenberger, your loving father. Like you.
I've never attempted to write something about a dad that I've never known. Home movie without a home and without a dad. See you later. The opening frame is a weedy field in black and white and 2 washed dots. The shot spans right to left, the field uniformly bleak. then back to writing Gracie. And the little house is just beyond the camera. The next frame is a still photograph of a 2-year-old girl who looks very serious with a page boy haircut. The frame jiggles, even gets stuck, with the lower half of her face suspended above the top. Then the picture rolls on to 2 strange women walking toward the camera. They're joined, fast motion, by a whole group who freeze their smiles and aim. Somewhere in that group is the girl's mother and a man who could be the girl's father. The little girl again, naked in a round tub. Silver tea kettles rotate above her. The kettles, in their circle dance, tip water through their spouts. Every once in a while, a kettle gets too close, and she ducks and tumbles forward.
There's not too many times that I remember doing a lot with my father, which is unfortunate. I remember we went shooting once. When I was a kid, I was into guns and wanted to shoot guns. I got a .22 when I was about 14, and he took me out. He said, you can't have this gun unless somebody teaches you how to use it. So he took me out for one Sunday afternoon in between, I think it was halftime during the football game. And we went out shooting for about an hour. This is the bad part now that he's gone. That was one of the few things we did together. He wasn't into camping. He was into football. He played a little bit at Carolina, and he was into watching it, but he wasn't into being out in the yard and playing football with me or playing baseball or anything else. My dad did play one musical instrument. He played trombone, and like this. He's pretty talented. Actually, I never really called him Dad. In the South, you call your dad Daddy.
Daddy.
Daddy. We never called him anything but Daddy.
Daddy, 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 Daddy. Daddy. My name is Sandy Schultz, and my father's name was Marion O. Schultz, and they used to call him Mo. He always wanted to weigh 220 pounds, and so he would eat a lot. My mother would always yell at him, said, "Don't eat so much." But he only weighed 150 pounds when they were married. He was a skinny man. And so he always wanted to eat a lot, and I remember we'd always have to clean off our plates, and out of the way. He always used to make us eat a lot too. And he would always have mashed potatoes for supper. Couldn't live without his mashed potatoes. He'd have spaghetti and we'd have mashed potatoes, which is bad. But he would take the mashed potatoes, put it on his plate, and he'd mash them up with his fork. Then he'd take a knife, and then he'd flatten the top of the mashed potatoes, and then he'd flatten the edges. So his mashed potatoes would be this shape across his plate, all nice and even. Then he'd put butter on it, and then salt and pepper, and then he'd put tons of pepper. He'd pour half a shaker of pepper on his mashed potatoes. He loved pepper.
Children came by.
No, it was
You're cool.
I think so. Billy Pat.
Yeah, it was pretty cool having these kids there. We're always they were these breaths that reminded them, and I was.
They warned me about this.
No, I'm not.
Who did? Daddy did? Yeah. Came to me last night. That's a good boy, Flippo.
could, but you live too far.
Oh, no, I live
Shaw would come out and meet us halfway and say, what are you doing walking Billy home?
I live at Wake Tech.
I know. That's why I'm not walking you home.
Okay.
House of my childhood, man. Oh, boy.
This is the crowd.
Peter will like it.
I'm drinking water, I believe, or Coca-Cola. I'm definitely not drinking wine, although I think I'm practicing. I think I'm practicing for the wine drinking days there. That's the way Dad always looked. He was very conservative. He's rather bald, thin hair. Always had a, is he wearing a suit and tie there? Yeah. Yeah, he was always sort of wearing a suit and tie for business. Yeah, he didn't really live as long as he should. Didn't do too well by Mom that way. I always feel that he should have left her, should have taken a little better care of himself, and he could have stayed around to retire. Dad was a traveling salesman. The world was safe for democracy. And he was a traveling salesman with the shiniest shoes in the valley. According to Mom, no one had ever seen such shiny shoes. And Mom was getting ready to join the convent. She'd stayed home her entire life, taking care of her parents, and she was taking courses on how to join the convent right about the time the salesman showed up, rescued her from the life of the rosary beads. That's right. Right, Mom? My mother and Mom just went to the Veterans Cemetery today to visit the grave, my father's grave, which he's been dead about 15 years now. And we do that. I just found out today that Mom never goes without me, that she never goes on her own, even though she can drive. She doesn't like to go by herself. So the only time she goes, really, I guess, is when I come to town, which is maybe 3 times a year.
One thing I learned from my dad, one of the many things I learned from my dad, was an appreciation for different places besides where you are. He was from Connecticut and moved south to go to Wake Forest College when it was still at Wake Forest, and he never left. He, in fact, after he left Raleigh, he moved farther south, ended up in Thomasville, Georgia. When he was the director of the Confederate Centennial Commission in the early mid-60s, I was the eldest boy, so he used to take me on his business trips with him all the time. He used to have to travel a lot, go all over the whole state and visit different Civil War sites and give speeches and go to dinners and eat a lot of fried chicken and barbecue. And just traveling with him was one of the things I remember most about him, because he would sing in the car and we would just have a really good old time, and I felt like he was treating me more as not an adult, but a peer and not a little kid. And I also felt kind of special because since I was his oldest son, that I was doing these special things with Dad and meeting all these really important people all over the state. And I got to see parts of North Carolina I probably wouldn't have seen otherwise until adult years anyway. So it's just a really interesting thing that I could travel around and just kind of share things with Dad away from Mom and my brothers and Raleigh and everything else. And
I think each one of us is like him lots of times, different things. And the older we get, I don't see it anymore, because I forget. Tommy said it was so long ago, but if you look at pictures and stuff, I can see that we all look like him in different ways, different ages in our life. And I always thought that he probably was pretty witty and kind of a quick, quick wit and kind of a jokester, but not silly, And it seemed like people liked him a lot, that knew him. But I think he was probably a pretty quiet type guy. He had a shy side, I think, which I think we all do too. So
I felt kind of shortchanged because I was really I was finally getting old enough where he paid me almost adult attention, like doing more motorcycle rides and doing mechanical things or doing guy things, and that, that kind of got shortchanged or completely cut off, and I was kind of sad about that. That was a big part.
I got married yesterday, and I think every big occasion that I've ever had in my life, I've thought about afterwards. I wonder what he would have thought of it, or if things would have been the same, you know. So I think, you know, that's just a natural kind of feeling.
I was home from school the weekend my dad died, and I was in Greensboro with my sister. We had gone to a concert, and when we came home, my mom was waiting up for us, which she hadn't done in a long time. And she told us that I guess my stepmom had called from Salisbury and said my dad had had a heart attack earlier that evening and died.
He died of a massive coronary failure.
He was temporarily paralyzed and developed an ulcer and bled to death.
Massive coronary infarction.
Oh, he has ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease.
He choked on pizza.
How do you feel being at this dead dad's party?
Oh, it's kind of...
Okay, well, how do you feel about your dad? Huh?
Dead. He's been dead for so long that I really can't even sort it out anymore. I mean, you know, man, he lived, he died. I mean, we've got this little horrible situation. But, I mean, I only dream about him anymore. Not much. I dream about him a little bit. But he's dead. And he was a good man. And he was a good man. He was a good man. But he was a bad man too. He did a lot of bad things. And ultimately, he died. He died.
What would you have wanted to do if you knew he was going to die before he died?
I don't know, just, you know, go to the bar, have a drink, go out in the water or something, you know, go out in the water.
On a canoe, swimming?
Well, I don't know, but something to do with water, you know, I don't know. Something.
He was the youngest of 7 children.
We're talking about dead dad.
Steve knew my dad. Had a motorcycle too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Did he kill a motorcycle?
He was doing, no. He was doing the 45-year-old thing.
Yeah.
He got him a motorcycle and a girlfriend and all sorts of shit.
And my dad said,
Give me a year.
considering what he was and what he had to deal with, he did okay. That's about all you can expect from somebody, right? They did okay. That's about it. They did okay.
Life was pretty normal, though. My father had a girlfriend that lived up the street.
I remember a few good things. We had a garden and pigs in the backyard at the beach and big hogs, I guess, really. My dad used to put us on their backs to ride, and we had a little pool in our backyard, and he'd swim us around on his back and stuff like that. Those were good things.
Yeah, one thing I remember kind of a neat thing. He used to lay in the middle of the living room floor, like belly up, and listen to really loud, like pretty loud Beatles music.
We have a Dead Dads Club book. Here's the honor roll of our dads, and it's their name and when they were born and died and their age. And another unusual fact was that a good many of them were pretty young, you know, around 50, 40s and 50s when they died. The youngest was, I think, Tommy Lopez's dad, who was only 35, and the oldest was Bruce Couch's, who was 76, but most of them were in between that age, around 40 or 50.